Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. And here they are, the Bulls and Bears this week. Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Lisa Booth and Jamoo Green. Welcome to everybody. So we saw celebs turn out in droves for the health care law. And Lisa, now we're seeing it for the Iran deal. What's that mean?
Well, I think this deal is in trouble. And look, that didn't work out so well for President Obama because Obamacare is as unpopular as ever. But look, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of liberals in Hollywood trivializing big issues and important issues. A nuclear Iran is no laughing matter here, and that's what we could potentially have. Look, Iran is the most active state sponsor of terrorism. They've worked with their enemies to kill Americans and to kill our allies. And look, they're puppeteering and funding terrorism across the globe.
Jamoo, do you have a problem with Hollywood jumping in on this one? They've many times taken the liberal side on issues in Washington.
Why would I have a problem with an American speaking their mind? Look, Brenda, on one hand, we have a deal based on strong diplomacy, and on the other hand, we have the possibility of war. Is that a choice? So when Jack Black, who I think is a great comedian, when he says we can't, it's not a laughing matter, we can't play politics with this deal, I take his opinion over the comedians, some of them clowns, that have taken over Congress.
Well, okay, Gary B., obviously there are two sides to this story, but Hollywood does carry a lot of heft with people. What do you think of this commercial and the point that they're making and what it means to this fight?
Well, there's a couple things, Brenda. One is I like how, you know, Jamoo and the left always says, oh, we're happy to have anyone speak up. But when the right speaks up with very valid points, they're always hotheads or they're crazy, as if just bringing up alternate debate points is somehow nuts. Look, this whole thing boils down to, do we trust Iran or not? Listen, if everything comes true and Iran behaves as the perfect citizen, this is going to be the greatest deal in the world. But we know that's not going to be the case for many of the points that Lisa pointed out. The other thing that I think is important is Israel is dead set against it. Israel is one of our staunchest allies, has been for, my gosh, almost 70 years now since the State of Israel was created and first recognized by the United States. So we're turning our back on our best, staunchest, most loyal ally who hates this deal in support of Iran. It just doesn't make any sense, Brenda.
And John, the Israeli lobby is lobbying very hard on this issue on lawmakers. It's really an all-out assault on both sides. Isn't this just the way that Washington works? Hollywood's just trying to get their side?
Absolutely. Hollywood tends to be liberal, and these guys have the right to speak out, as Jamoo said, like any other Americans. But this isn't about just diplomacy. This is a very bad deal, and that is certainly my opinion. But you look at the facts. Iran has a 27% inflation, according to the Iranian central bank. That's the highest on record. Most people think it's closer to 50. The rial, the Iranian currency, has devalued over 80% since 2011. They have oil right now sitting in tankers because they can't get it insured through the EU because of the sanctions, just sitting there unable to sell it. They have double-digit unemployment. Now, when you're talking about going from that to making them possibly one of the richest countries in the world, over $150 billion is going to go into this country, and you're going to tell those businesses in a couple of years, if they break these rules, that you now are going to lose those billions of dollars? That's absolutely impossible. It took decades to get them to this point where they had to come to the negotiating table. Now they're dictating the terms, and in 10 years, they're going to be flush with cash, they're going to have a well-funded military, and they're going to have a nuclear bomb.
Well, the point that Hollywood was making, Jonas, was essentially if we don't do this deal, there's going to be an arms race in the Middle East, and that's going to mean a conventional war, and the U.S. will get involved. What do you think of that point?
I don't think that's that outlandish. And I mean, look, this isn't like a Sean Penn video trying to make a first favored nation status out of Iran. I mean, they're just trying to wake up younger voters primarily to get involved and at least back something. I don't think that is going to work ultimately, because I think where the celebrities have more power is in fundraising. You can pretty much buy these congressmen. This could have been a politically neutral thing. They could have given money to select congressmen. They could have fundraisers for them. All of a sudden, votes happen. It doesn't become a public issue like this has become. come. These calls are not going to come in and tilt the boat in one direction or the other. I think the way to do it was to keep it not political by entering the point. They're actually raising the rights. Oh, the liberals are involved. Look at the Hollywoods on this side. I got to be on the other side. People that would have had no opinion on Iran. I think you could have spun a story that North Korea we had sanctions on, and when they started getting nukes, and they're still getting to nukes, so that didn't work. So this is a different strategy. It should have stayed a little more politically neutral like that. So I don't think Hollywood's helping in this case.
Gary B., you're practically jumping out of your seat.
Well, yeah, because, I think in this case, in many cases, to be honest with you, I disagree with Jonas. I think sanctions were working for all the reasons that John pointed out. They're crippling this country. We're, for better or worse, bending them to our will, bending them to the right way. And now we're basically handing them a whole new GDP. We're making them rich, and we're saying we're going to do all that because we trust you. I mean, does anyone think that that is a sane solution?
Jimmu?
Well, I would love to hear some solutions from the right instead of just downplaying the enormous amount of progress we have made. That chokehold, John, I'm sure you will understand that. That chokehold that we have on Iran right now is because of the same people who have now negotiated that deal. So I put my money on their approach to this over people who are simply
you would rather
in this conversation to say no to anything that this president does. That's not reasonable. That's not in our national
what you're
security,
advocating
and that's
for,
not in the best interest globally.
What you're advocating for is to give Iran $150 billion, as we've already mentioned, unfreeze those assets and allow Iran, who is already puppeteering and funding terrorism across the globe, more money to do that. And essentially what this deal does is not only unfreezes those assets, it does nothing to protect the world.
Okay.
It does nothing to protect the world. It does nothing to prevent a nuclear
guys, please.
I'm advocating for peace.
Okay, hold on.
You're advocating for essentially handing over a nuclear weapon to Iran, and whose supreme leader recently just said death to America.
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous. It's the truth.
Okay, Jonas, Democrats are planning fewer town halls in this next recess. I think that may mean that they don't want to hear from the people on this. What do you think?
I think, to my point, is the quiet way was the way through with this. The more the public gets involved, the more you're going to get people on political sides. I think Lisa needed to. The thing that Jimmu said that was most outrageous was that Jack Black is a great comic, and I think he falls into the same character all the time, and that is not that good. But I do think that making this a Hollywood thing was not the way to get this through, and in fact, it might have backfired.
John?
Yeah, look, Jimmu, we're all advocating for peace, but believe it or not, or certainly I am, we disagree on how to get there. These sanctions did not start with the current administration. They started actually in 1979, and there's actually, and they built on that for decades. There's actually a couple assumptions that are wrong in this tape made by the Hollywood stars. The fact that a bad deal is better than no deal, that is simply not true, and that a war is imminent if that deal does not go through, that is simply not true. Iran does not want a war. They have to deal with Saudi Arabia and with Israel, so that is not taken for granted. That is a fear-mongering tactic used by negotiators trying to get public opinion on their side to sway for this deal, saying we need a bad deal, it's better than no deal. That is not true.
Okay. Thanks, guys. That's got to be the last word. Cavuto on Business in about 20 minutes from now. Hey, Neil, what do you got?
Hey, Brenda, we've seen the disturbing videos. Now, should Planned Parenthood lose its stash of taxpayer dollars and Hillary Clinton refusing to pipe up on that Keystone Pipeline? You want an answer? She says get in line. See you at the bottom of the hour.
You will. We can't wait. But up here first, to the big labor backlash. As cities hike the minimum wage, some of the same unions that demanded it now want an exemption from it. Should they be allowed to get it?